Just before the break, we told you about a Boston DA candidate named Rachel Rollins and her vision for criminal justice reform. What is the argument in favor of her plan? We're grateful that Rachel Rollins agreed to come on this show and make the case directly, and she joins us now. Rachel, thank you for coming on. A lot of people are talking about this story, and I'm thankful that you are here to tell us your views. And because I'm grateful, I want to be respectful of you, and I'm going to try to be. I'm concerned, though, and confused why in the middle of the worst drug crisis in our history, you would want to decriminalize possession with intent to distribute drug dealing. Why?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Course.
I'm very excited to be the Democratic nominee here in Boston. I'm more concerned about possession charges with respect to substances. And what we have is a significant opioid crisis here in Boston with 6 to 8 people dying a day. And what we're seeing, Tucker, is people are being incarcerated and they are having their opioid crisis dealt with by the prison system or the House of Corrections, and I don't believe that that's the appropriate place where they should be getting their services.
There's a counter argument, but I think that's legitimate. That is an argument that you just made. But on your website, unless I'm misreading it, it's possession with intent to distribute. That's drug dealing. So this crisis is real. You just said it. Why would we not want to prosecute drug dealers in the middle of a drug crisis?
Well, there's significant smaller amounts with respect to the intent to distribute. We're talking more along the lines of a trafficking charge is where I'd be wanting to focus our attention. We have removed mandatory minimums, Tucker, in Massachusetts in a new criminal justice reform bill that was signed into law by Governor Baker. So we are moving away from focusing on those type of crimes. I believe that what we're doing here in Massachusetts, at least, and I'm not sure what's happening where you are located, but there's lots of nonviolent people that are currently sitting in jail, and it's costing us over $50,000 at sometimes upwards of $65,000 a year to have them there. And
right.
When they come out, as you know, Tucker, they have a felony, they can't get housing, they can't get employment, and that's why we have over a 50% recidivism rate here.
I mean, for sure. I mean, that's one. But when 70,000 Americans are dying a year of drug ODs, drug dealing could be construed as a form of violence. Let me ask you about the shoplifting question. You want to decriminalize shoplifting. So most people who own convenience stores are poor people. A lot of them are immigrants. What do you say to them when they come to you and say, people are looting my store, essentially, and no one will prosecute them? What's your answer to them?
So what I want to make sure is no one's saying that they aren't going to be held accountable. What I want to make sure your understanding is, as I said, $50,000 a year to house somebody in the Suffolk County House of Corrections. A shoplifting charge is going to have multiple court dates. We are going to have, let's say, 3 months. This person can't afford their bail. It's going to cost us $12,500 to house them in the Suffolk County House of Corrections. I believe that we can have them doing either community service or returning the item itself. I think we have to think creatively about solutions. It's much more fiscally responsible to not house them within. Go ahead.
I understand, but in both cases, with the drug dealer and the shoplifter, you appealed to the person being accused. What happens to this person is very tough on the criminal, and I think it's a fair point. But you haven't said anything about the parents of the kid who died of a fentanyl OD, or the shop owner who's watching his stock get stolen by shoplifters, which is really common in places, as you know. What do you say to them? We're not cracking down as hard on the people who are looting your store. We're not cracking down as hard on the people who killed your kid with fentanyl. Like, what's your line to them?
Well, what I would say is certainly if there's an opioid or overdose related death, that's a different situation that could be charged with a different crime. That's number one. What I will say to you, though, is with respect to the store owners, we're not saying that they're not going to get their items back. If we are catching these individuals and return the items and have a stay away order and that individual continues to go back, what I'm saying, Tucker, is what happens now is one incident occurs, somebody is arrested, they usually can't afford their bail, so they're held pre-trial. It's costing us more money. If we can get a civic association or some other oversight involved in this individual's life and get the services back to the items back to the store owner, I think that's a more fiscally responsible.
You keep saying fiscally responsible. Boston is now a livable city because the crime rate is at its lowest in 20 years, I think, and that's true of a lot of cities. The crime rate will go up if you get elected and if people with your ideas get elected nationwide. There's really no question. We've seen it before. What's the cost of that when New York becomes a place you can't live because of crime, when it becomes uninhabitable, as it was before in the 70s? What's the cost there?
Well, I would challenge you. A livable city in what sense? That you can afford to live here?
That you don't get mugged going to the liquor store at night, as you used to in New York in 1981. People didn't live there. Washington, D.C., same thing. I lived there at the time. You couldn't go anywhere because of the crime. That's coming back.
I understand that.
Are you worried about that?
Well, I'm pushing back a little on that, Tucker, respectfully. I believe there are sections in Boston. There's a 3-mile radius where we have over 1,000 unsolved homicides. And the Washington Post just did an article, I'm sure you read, where Massachusetts, sadly, in Suffolk County, Boston, we have the highest rate of unsolved homicides with respect to a racial disparity. So I would push back a little bit. There are sections in Boston that are not livable at all. I want to focus on that type of crime. I need to push and make sure you understand I am a former prosecutor.
Okay.
I don't have a problem putting people in jail if they are violent, but I believe we have too many people in jail that are not violent. And we can disagree with what violence is, and I respect that and understand it, but I believe that we are spending too much time on petty crimes that are clogging up our system and costing us more money, and we can handle them in a more social, they're more social problems than they are crimes.
A lot of people have... Okay, we're out of time. Rachel, thank you for coming on. No, that's it. We're just out of time, but I appreciate your coming on and explaining your views. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.